The Ridgeway, 87 miles in 6 days from Avebury to Ivinghoe Beacon in September 2012. The Ridgeway was my first solo long-distance walk. I was very excited about the prospect of walking it on my own because it is an ancient track and apparently the oldest road in Britain. It follows a route used since prehistoric times, which once stretched all the way from the Dorset coast to the Norfolk coast. The Ridgeway, which is popular with walkers today, is actually part of the longer trail, the Greater Ridgeway, which extends from Lyme Regis to Hunstanton and incorporates the Wessex Ridgeway, the Ridgeway, the Icknield Way, and the Peddars Way. The Ridgeway is aptly named because it generally follows the course of a chalk ridge which extends in a northeasterly or southwesterly direction across much of southern England. West of the Thames, which it crosses at the Goring Gap between Streatley and Goring, it traverses the rolling North Wessex Downs and is more open and less wooded. East of the Thames, it passes through the beautiful wooded hills and valleys of the Chilterns. There are many archaeological monuments close to the trail, including Stone Age long barrows, Bronze Age round barrows, Iron Age hill forts, and figures of white horses cut into the chalk. The extensive views across central England from the ridge are amazing, and the unsightly encroachments of the M4, the M40 and the former Didcot power station, which was a blot on the landscape for several days as I traversed the ridge, are a necessary modern evil. In walking this trail on my own, I was hoping for the opportunity to really tune into the earth energies along this major prehistoric artery across the English countryside, without any distractions. I knew by then that it runs more or less in parallel with the Michael and Mary ley lines, which cross it at Avebury and Ivinghoe Beacon. I was particularly looking forward to returning to Avebury, one of my favourite places in England. Avebury is a Neolithic henge consisting of 3 megalithic stone circles, one of which is the largest in the world. Over the centuries, the village of Avebury has grown up within the site which almost cradles it. I first went there during my teens and was blown away by its magical, otherworldly atmosphere. It keeps drawing me back like a magnet, and each time I go there, new magical aspects are revealed to me. Much has been written about the mysteries of Avebury, which are way beyond the scope of this book, which is simply an account of my personal spiritual experiences. But I do believe that Avebury may well lie at the heart of all that is sacred in Britain. So imagine my disappointment when I arrived at my B&B in Avebury on the eve of my walk to find it pouring with rain. My B&B was supposed to have great views of the enigmatic Silbury Hill, but all I could see through the mist was more mist. Gone were any thoughts of a leisurely stroll around the village and the opportunity to commune with the stones. It continued to rain solidly all night, and as I made my way to the start of the trail the next morning, the rain was torrential. Day 1, 18.5 miles from Avebury to Chiseldon. My guidebook talked about the grey weathers, which are sarsen stones, sandstone boulders, which litter the hillside of Fifield Down as the trail leaves Avebury. The name is derived from the fact that they have the appearance of sheep, and I could totally understand this analogy as I walked dejectedly through the mist, because they sort of loomed out at me, almost like ghosts, but looking surprisingly like grazing sheep. As I skirted the edge of the Marlborough Downs, I was lashed by driving torrents of rain. As I trudged through the Iron Age hill fort of Barbary Castle, the wind and rain howled at my heels. As I walked past Ogbourne St George, I was drenched by more sheets of rain. And as I reached Fox Hill and headed west to my off-trail accommodation for the night, I sloshed my way through the open landscape in abject misery. What on earth have I got myself into? I thought, towards the end of my 18.5-mile first day. Have I made a big mistake? Maybe my guides had other plans for me with this walk. Day 2, 13.5 miles from Chiseldon to Wantage. Fortunately, the rain had eased off by the time I set off on the second day of my walk, heading towards Wantage, the birthplace of Alfred the Great. I was particularly looking forward to two of the highlights of the trail, Wayland's Smithy and Uffington Castle, and this time I was not disappointed. A gentle, almost nurturing energy pervaded both sites, and I started to get a feel for the importance of the Ridgeway in ancient times and even in the present day. Wayland's Smithy is a 5,000-year-old Neolithic chambered long barrow. According to local legend, if you leave an unshod horse at the tomb with a few pennies, it will have new shoes upon your return. I wonder if that applies to boots as well. By the end of the walk, I could happily have shredded my previously beloved boots and replaced them with something lighter. The Ridgeway path between Wayland's Smithy and Uffington Castle. This is a good example of the hard chalky surface which is common to much of the trail. You can really motor along these stretches. Uffington Castle, an Iron Age hill fort. The 3,000-year-old White Horse of Uffington, said to be the oldest hill figure in Britain, is not actually visible from the path, so I did not divert to see it because I had already seen it from the Vale of the White Horse on a previous visit. Rainbow over the Ridgeway. Day 3, 14.5 miles from Wantage to Goring-on-Thames. By the third day, I was starting to get into my stride and really enjoying my solitary adventure. The wide open vistas, the wind in my hair, the sound of skylarks, and the timeless nature of the trail were all starting to work their magic, and I was feeling very much part of the web of creation. This is the door of Streatley Church, a beautiful little church where I spent a quiet half hour contemplating the meaning of life, the universe, and the Ridgeway. It felt like it was a pivotal point on the trail. Goring-on-Thames. Day 4. 14.5 miles from Goring-on-Thames to Watlington. This was the day when I met the competition and started to suffer from blisters for the first time in my life. South Stoke. Just after passing this charming house, the trail runs down to the Thames and the riverside footpath, which runs for a few miles along the river, before heading off in an easterly direction towards the Chilterns. This is where I met two other walkers on the river bank as they were having their coffee break. They were the first, and as it turned out, the only walkers I met who were walking the whole trail like me, and we enthusiastically swapped stories about our first few days on the trail. Over our 3 remaining days, we pretty much kept pace with each other, and they proved to be worthy competition. However, we all started to suffer from blisters, and none of us could quite understand why, because, like me, they were experienced walkers and had never had problems before. For the first time, I understood why walkers can literally be stopped in their tracks by blisters. Day 5, 17 miles from Watlington to Wendover. Here is a typical example of the beautiful beech woods which are a feature of this part of the trail. And even more. My faithful boots, which it turned out were not quite so faithful after all. The driveway running up to Chequers, the Prime Minister's country home. Coombe Hill near Wendover. Coombe Hill is the highest viewpoint in the Chilterns at 852 feet above sea level, offering stunning views across the Aylesbury Vale. Grimm's Ditch, part of a series of linear earthworks in the Chilterns with mysterious origins. The term Grim is derived from the Norse word Grimmer, a nickname used for the Norse god Odin. Grim is a name shared by a number of prehistoric banks and ditches. Day 6, 16 miles from Wendover to Ivinghoe Beacon. St Mary's Church, Wendover. The competition slugging it out, heading up towards Ivinghoe Beacon. By this stage, Phil's blisters were so bad that he was barely able to stagger up to the finishing line at Ivinghoe Beacon. However, somehow he made it, and in retrospect, we all concluded that our blisters had been caused by a combination of factors all associated with ridge walking. We were all wearing heavy leather boots, which had served us well on other walks in more hilly terrain, but we learnt the hard way that such boots are not suitable for pounding along fast on the hard, chalky surfaces that are typical of ridge walks. Not only is the surface hard, it is also relatively flat, and consequently you are able to walk much faster than normal. I have subsequently realised that trail shoes are probably the best type of footwear for the Ridgeway. Here is my hero on a very important mission in Aldbury after picking me up from Ivinghoe Beacon, procuring the Saturday cryptic crossword. Lessons learnt. Walking solo is great. A bit of competition is also great. Blisters are not great.